Now, you were a former Australian ambassador to Israel, yet there was no offer by Peter Dutton to make you a shadow minister. Do you think there was a view from him, my people and the other people?
Look, I don't think I had any personal animus from Peter or anything else like that. I think he respected my abilities, but I do think we had people on the front bench who weren't pulling their weight, who didn't have the capability, the profile, the policy heft to take the best offering to the election. And, leaders have to make decisions about the shadow cabinet on all sorts of criteria, geography, gender, faction, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think there was enough merit in that mix, would be my honest assessment.
So you're keen to serve in the shadow cabinet this time?
I'm keen to serve in whatever role I can be of help, but I think I could be, yeah.
Have either Angus Taylor or Sussan Ley spoken to you about portfolios at this point?
No, and, frankly, I would be appalled if they had. I'm not interested in people trading support.
So they haven't promised you a front bench spot?
No, and I haven't asked for one, and nor would I. And I think any prospective leadership candidate that was going around trading portfolios for support is taking the completely wrong approach to this.
Well, there's reports Sussan Ley is. Do you think she is?
I don't believe she is, no, but I also don't believe Angus is. I haven't had that conversation.
All right. I mean, I've got to tell you that you might be one of the couple of votes that decide this thing, so it's lucky for me that you're on the show. It's even been put to me that you've kind of, I don't want to use the word committed, but you've indicated interest in voting for both candidates. So which way do you think you're going to go, and is that a fair characterisation?
No, I think a fair characterisation is I've given every candidate who's put themselves forward for leadership a good audience and interrogated them on how they'd want to do things differently, how they would run the party, how they would consult with the backbench, how policy making would work, how they think we would appeal to this large swathe of voters that we've lost. That's the most important thing to me. I need to be convinced about whoever takes on the leadership of the party has the right plan and the vision and the honesty and sort of capacity for self-reflection to recognise their own contributions to what's gone wrong and the depth of the malaise in which we find us.
Has anyone convinced you yet?
Well, I'm not going to announce it on this show. I'm sorry to.
Sounds like someone has.
No, I think I'm genuinely, I'm genuinely open-minded about this, and I know I don't think I'm alone in that regard. A lot of us are wrestling with this. A lot of my colleagues are wrestling with this.
Because I just told you before we came on camera, there was this infamous incident where Mark Latham beat Kim Beazley by one vote, and it was Robert McClelland in the shower that particular morning thought, I'll go for Latham. Do you think you're going to have an epiphany on Tuesday morning?
No, I think, look, I'm slowly reaching my decision, but I don't need to announce it right now, and I haven't completely crystallised my thinking.
If it is a close vote, will that be an issue for the party going forward?
Well, look, I think it will be a close vote, and I think it's very important that whatever the outcome is, everyone respects the result and everyone gets behind the new leader and makes sure that they have the best prospects of success as possible. I know that's not going to be easy, but we don't have the luxury of being able to tear ourselves apart over the next year or two. Our party room's not big enough. Our level of public support is not high enough to indulge ourselves in that way.
Our election analyst, Tom Clennell, has called Kooyong for Monique Ryan overnight, but it's very tight. Do you think Josh Frydenberg could have won the seat, and is this a missed opportunity for him?
I don't. Look, I think Amelia Hamer ran a good campaign. You've got to remember, Monique Ryan had one of the highest primary votes in 2022 of all of the Teals, in the low 40s from memory. So she was always going to be a difficult one to knock off. I think Amelia Hamer has run a good campaign. Look, Josh was not interested in running at the last election, so it's a bit of a hypothetical, but I think, you see we were up against it, and Tim Wilson had a great result in Goldstein. I think we've probably hung on in Bradfield. But in the other Teal seats, to be honest, we made up some ground, but we didn't win them back. And some of the Teal seats we went backwards.
But Josh could have won that, and then he could be leader. Let's face it.
Well, it's something for Josh to think about. There's often these sliding doors moments in politics, right, where you choose not to take a path. But I think Josh has said he remains open about his political future. I'd like to see him involved at some point in the future, but how and when that comes about is a matter for him. What
do you make of Jacinta Price's defection and her immediately running for deputy leader?
Well, look, she's welcome as a member of the CLP. As I understand it, she's welcome to sit in either the Liberals or the Nationals party room. For her first 3 years in Parliament, she chose to sit in the Nationals party room. She's now welcome to sit in the Liberals party room. There's no particular process she needs to go through other than advise the CLP executive, I think, and that's been done. So, look, you know, as we welcome the addition, but I'm also conscious that some of the Nationals feel quite aggrieved about this, and I can understand their feelings in that regard as well.
She got to do her time before she becomes deputy leader, or is it time to throw a bit of caution to the wind on that one?
Well, she's perfectly entitled to put her hand up. You know, if she's been accepted into the Liberal party room, any of us can put our hands up as deputy leader. And I think the party room will decide that. People will have different views about that issue, though, I think.
Do you think she's a future leader?
Well, she needs to be in the lower house to be a future leader. So I think there's a lot of people who could be future leaders who are in the Senate at the moment, but not in the House.
Would you rate yourself in there?
No, and I'm sorry, I'm hasten to add, I'm not including myself here, but until that time, it's just academic.
Yeah, sure. I guess she could have run for Lingiari. Now, do you believe it's possible the coalition will split? Because it seems likely that the Nationals, according to my information, will dump the 2050 net zero target.
Look, I think, you know, we need to revisit a lot of things after this election result, and, you know, the arrangement with the Nationals, the coalition agreement, is one of those, in my view. We need to make sure that that agreement and our partnership is working in both of our interests. It can't be, you know, one party's interests at the expense of the other. So I think, you know, once new leaders are chosen, I'd expect the leaders of both parties to sit down and work out some of this stuff. But at the moment, I'd say, you know, look, the Liberals' poor electoral fortunes is not helping the Nationals at all, because it means they're never going to get back into government. So, you know, neither they nor us have an interest in the Liberals' political stocks continuing to fall.
Well, the Nationals were big drivers of the nuclear policy. Do you think it's time to dump that policy?
I think it's time to revisit that policy, but I think that's not unique. I mean, any and all the policies we took to the election, we will need to review and revisit. Doesn't mean we're going to dump them all, but it also doesn't mean we automatically keep them. And I think with that policy, you know, my view is that the public is not hostile to nuclear power generation, but the concern they have, and Labor weaponised this and used it as a scare campaign, is how will it be paid for and funded, and what will the cost be? And I think that, you know, undoubtedly that hurt us during the campaign. People, you know, on booths and at polling stations were raising this as a concern, that how are you going to pay for nuclear? As I said, Labor weaponised that against us, but we need to have a better answer to that.
Dave Sharma, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks,
and good luck with your decision on Tuesday.